Trump heading to Camp David as the GOP announces it has the votes to pass tax reform.
We have a tremendous spirit for the tax reform. This is going to be one of the great gifts to the middle-income people of this country that they've ever gotten for Christmas.
He said tax reform will allow the U.S. to take its economy to a whole other level.
We are back. We're really going to start to rock.
A massive wildfire is getting bigger. It is now the third largest wildfire on record in California.
U.S. immigration rules have been based on an outdated system known as chain migration. The current system is totally incompatible with national security.
The lawyer for the Trump presidential transition team is accusing Robert Mueller and his team of inappropriately obtaining private documents as part of its Russia probe.
The fix was in against Donald Trump from the beginning, and they were pro-Hillary.
President Trump won in spite of the Republican establishment being against him, the Democrats being against him. Still, he prevailed. To me, that's the real story here.
We had Katy Perry yesterday. Kind of second.
Okay.
There's my oatmeal, Montana. Thank you for my oatmeal. I appreciate it.
So Pete was calling Ed a grandpa for ordering oatmeal this morning.
Hey,
so
my name's Ed Henry. Can I get some oatmeal? Please, Montana. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You know,
I mean, listen,
one
I like
viewer
eggs
sent
and
me-
bacon and pancakes and everything for breakfast, but
These are
oatmeal
good.
feels like...
Oh, it's so good. You want some?
Do they still have it at stores?
You know what's great about it is one of our viewers said that if you have a problem around the house, you can eat half of it and then use the other for like adhesive, plug up holes
true.
and stuff. I'm
It's
sure
like
Sean
glue,
does that.
It's true.
So people are writing in. Go ahead. Let me
You've
have it.
emailed us and let us know about oatmeal. And this is from Butch. He says, I like oatmeal for breakfast on a really cold morning.
Butch.
I need that stick to my ribs
right.
type of food
See, he's on
to
my
help
side.
stay warm.
all right,
Good
from
point.
Mark, he says oatmeal is great for breakfast as long as crispy bacon is added to the mix. Oh, I've never had bacon in my
correct.
oatmeal.
One viewer
yeah, you could break it
tweeted
up in
me.
there.
A viewer tweeted me we had to put poached eggs in there, and it's great. Anyway, Tammy says oatmeal has soluble fiber, which can help reduce your LDL, the bad cholesterol. I'm a granny, but I've known oatmeal a hero.
Brown sugar in there. I've had my share of oatmeal.
You know who's not old is Peter Ducey. He's not even remotely old.
No, he's young,
He'll never look old, by the way.
but he's also smart. He's got great hair too. It's true. Let's bring in Peter Ducey. Peter, you've got the Fox News exclusive on the bombshell over Russia's probe. What's happening? What's the latest in Washington over President Trump, Russia, and how it pertains to Bob Mueller?
The latest is that the Trump team thinks their Fourth Amendment protections against unlawful search and seizure have been violated by the special counsel because they only realized this week that his investigators obtained tens of thousands of emails between 13 top transition team officials on September 1st. Mueller's team never asked the transition team for these correspondence, though. He went straight to the General Services Administration, the government agency that hosted the server from Election Day to Inauguration Day. Now, a Trump for America lawyer tells Fox that, quote, in short, since the GSA improperly provided them to the special counsel's office, the presidential transition team's privileged materials have not only been reviewed privately by the special counsel's office without notification to Trump for America, they have also been misused publicly. But Mueller's team, normally tight-lipped about things like this, defends the discovery process like this. They say, when we have obtained emails in the course of our ongoing criminal investigation, we have secured either the owner's consent, the account owner's consent, or appropriate criminal process. The transition team says they were ready to cooperate and have been going through these emails and separating ones they think are privileged or not relevant to the Russia probe. But Mueller has the whole batch now, and there was never a subpoena. A GSA lawyer tells BuzzFeed they suggested a subpoena or a warrant for this stuff, but Mueller sent a letter, and that was good enough. The week ahead for the Russia investigation brings Capitol Hill testimony from Andrew McCabe and Bruce Orr, who are expected to speak about new concerns about whether or not the FBI and DOJ have been fair to the Trump team. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, Bruce Orr, Justice Department official, demoted in the last week because he didn't tell other people at Justice he had these contacts with Fusion GPS. And as Rachel pointed out last hour, his wife was being paid by Fusion GPS. Okay. They're the folks who put together the dirty dossier that may have sort of weaponized
paid for by the Clintons.
Clinton and the DNC.
And the DNC. Yeah.
And then Tuesday, Andy McCabe.
She's the Russia expert for Fusion
For
GPS.
Fusion
Not
GPS.
like she's not working on like Australia. She's working on Russia.
I think when you add all of these pieces together, I mean, we could be looking at one of the worst electoral election scandals in U.S. history, really. I mean, these people, looks like they got together to use the criminal justice system to affect the election, either in the case of helping Hillary Clinton so that she didn't get, stained with the email scandal, or by putting the stain on Donald Trump after with the Russia corruption narrative.
And the challenge is to stay focused. We were talking about this we were listening to Peter Doocy, but he was talking
every word.
GSA, PTT, all these acronyms, you can get lost in the bureaucracy. And I think that's exactly what they were counting on.
Right. And maybe
you can't find us because we're so disparate, and Hillary Clinton was going to win, so you're never going to find out anyway. And then when you try to investigate us, we can deny and hide and wait, and you'll never find it out.
Well, except they said if she does win, we have an insurance policy.
Right.
And what
did that mean?
What does that mean? What were they cooking up?
They will definitely ask Andrew McCabe about that.
Well, here's what I
right.
think is fascinating, too, because when Rachel adds that in the text messages within the FBI and the insurance policy, were they trying to impact the election, and post-election say, well, if Trump wins, we're gonna investigate and we're going to try to knock him out, essentially. So that narrative has changed in the last week, and it's been bad for Democrats. So what do? Jackie Speier, Congresswoman from California, openly says, look, I'm hearing rumors that the president might fire Mueller. Let's just throw that in the mix and change the narrative. Watch.
The rumor on the Hill when I left yesterday was that the president was going to make a significant speech at the end of next week, and on December 22nd, when we are out of D.C., he was going to fire Robert Mueller. I believe that the president wants all of this shut down. He wants to shut down these investigations, and he wants to fire Special Counsel Mueller.
So that's the rumor on the Hill, confirmed by Walt Schaub, who's the former Obama ethics czar. Remember, Obama only lied 18 times, according to the New York Times. Ed reminded me of that. So he was clearly very good at his job as the ethics czar. He tweeted this. He said, this weekend, I'm stocking up on phone chargers, warm clothes, and gear. He forgot gold, but he did go on to say, for when we take the streets, I'm concerned the assault on the rule of law is coming over the holidays when we're distracted. It'll be a defining moment for the Republic. So just as the public is learning about what the deep state has done to take on Donald Trump, they're doubling down on the theory that, no, he wants to fire Bob Mueller to cover up the collusion that he had with Russia when we've seen no evidence.
These are the same critics of the president who say, oh, he has problems with the truth. He pushes false narratives and all the rest. And you have members of Congress on the Democratic side openly saying, I'm hearing rumors. That's what I'm basing on. Rumors say he's going to fire Mueller. Come on.
And these rumors that Trump was going to fire Bob Mueller have been the rumors since Bob Mueller was appointed to the special counsel.
And he hasn't been fired.
It hasn't happened, and by the way, would be bad for Trump.
Of course. So the Fox News Channel went to Ty Cobb, the lawyer for President Trump, and said, hey, is Bob Mueller going to be fired? And Ty Cobb said in 5 words, Mueller will not be fired. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of fake news based on rumors, a lot of anonymous sources. We've learned about anonymous sources through what this president has educated us on.
How many stories have been wrong about the investigation just in the last week and a half?
Well, speaking of fake news, we have the Pope, who seems to be weighing in.
He's not fake.
The Pope weighing in on fake news, a very interesting alignment with Donald Trump, because we know that they don't agree on much. But here's what the Pope says about fake news. He said, you shouldn't fall into the sins of communication, of disinformation, or giving just one side. Calumny that is sensationalized, or defamation, looking for things that are old news and that have been dealt with and bringing them to light today.
Interesting.
What do you think about this comment?
Sins of communication. Let us know.
Sins of communication.
The Pope has kind of been all over the map. I mean, the Pope shouldn't be on a political spectrum, right? The Pope's got the direct line to the big guy. I don't.
The big guy.
But he does. So let us know. Friends at foxnews.com. What do you think? Sins of communication. He's basically warning. But one of the points he makes is don't traffic in old news. This idea that don't go back to yesterday and litigate. And I think I'm not I'll make it political. I don't mean to. But listen, this whole idea that we go back to identity politics. We go back to what divides us as opposed to moving forward to what unites us. Take Jingle Bells yesterday, which we're told was racist, right? Because it has origins in something that was racially based. Well, the reality today is we all love Jingle Bells. Black, white, and no matter what your background is. Why can't we look to what unites us as opposed to finding that, Carol Swain did such a great job of saying academia rewards the division. Yeah. Why can't we focus on what
as the Pope said?
That's a great point. Yeah. Wow, you're becoming very philosophical these days. Maybe you do some of these Comey tweets.
Yeah, you're like James Comey.
I'm a fellow traveler with Catholics.
He might be a Comey crony even.
I might start tweeting that. Comey-like.
The Pope saying here from both sides, he almost said fair and balanced. He almost got there.
He almost did.
Don't give him that credit.
All right, turning now to your headlines. President Trump touting the Republicans' tax cut plan, calling it a great Christmas gift for the middle class.
If you look at the whole thing, everybody's going to benefit. But I think the greatest benefit is going to be for jobs and for the middle class.
The House is expected to vote on the final tax bill early next week. If it passes, it will then go to the Senate. Police in Australia arrest and charge a man with acting as an agent for North Korea. The South Korean-born Sydney man is charged with attempting to broker sales worth tens of millions of dollars. The deals included components used in ballistic missiles. He's also charged with trying to generate income for the rogue nation from the sale of coal, which is on the UN sanctions list. The 59-year-old could face up to 10 years in prison.
How do you get those materials?
Wow. Over 300 passengers catching a nasty stomach virus on a Royal Caribbean cruise. That's over 100 more people than was previously reported. The cruise is now back in Florida after a 5-night horror of a journey through the Caribbean. That sounds awful. Guests waiting for up to 4 hours on board just to see a doctor. Royal Caribbean says crews are deep cleaning the ship before heading back out to sea later this week.
I hope so.
It's still unclear what caused the illness. A Wisconsin firefighter giving his girlfriend and her daughter a special surprise during a Christmas parade. So sweet. Matt Polyak getting down on one knee, not once, but twice. Both his girlfriend and her daughter said yes. Oh. And those are your headlines.
Telling you, cool. Listen to me about staying home and having oatmeal instead of getting on a cruise ship. You got to, Grandpa says stay home.
It's true. It actually sounds
all kinds of crazy stuff happening.
You live so risky, Ed. All right, the Republican tax bill could be the best Christmas gift to Americans yet. That's a big statement. But Democrats say it will kill jobs and hurt the middle class. Grover Norquist knows a thing or two about taxes. He's debunking the myths from the left next.
And a patriotic divide. 65% of conservatives are proud to be American, compared to just 37% of liberals. Why the split? Our bipartisan panel is here. They're going to look at it. Fair and balanced. Coming up.
Wait.
Channel on.
President Trump is defending the Republicans' tax cut plan, pushing back against criticism that it will benefit only the wealthy.
Look at the whole thing, everybody's going to benefit. But I think the greatest benefit is going to be for jobs and for the middle class.
So what are the top things in the tax bill that will make an impact on your lives? Grover Norquist is the founder and president for Americans for Tax Reform. He joins us now live. Grover, nobody knows more about taxes. I'm not just saying that to puff you up here. And it seems to me that while it might be hard for the president to defend the idea in what he said there that everyone will benefit, there are some people who are clearly going to see their taxes go up. But the fact is, Democrats almost seem like wind-up dolls sometimes. No matter what plan is put in front of them, it only helps the rich. That's all they'll say.
This is what they've said every time we cut taxes on everyone. When Reagan cut taxes across the board, keep in mind, every single American who pays taxes will get a rate reduction. We used to have a $12,000 exemption for a couple, so you'd pay zero taxes on the first $12,000. That goes to $24,000. So the idea that this is not important to middle-income people is nonsense. Somebody making $74,000 a year, sort of average in the country, gets a $2,000 tax cut. But that's not the only benefit. And the president spoke to one of the others. Look, you're going to have lower rates. Two, we're going to cut taxes on businesses to make it easier for them to hire more people, to invest more. We reduced the taxes on new investment, and we increased the reward on investment. So what are you going to get? Money from around the globe. Not only the 2 to 3 trillion with a T, dollars of American earnings will be brought back to the United States. Our stupid tax policy keeps that money now locked overseas. With the Trump Republican reform, that money will come back to invest in jobs here. Plus, other people from Brazil and France and Japan will send money because we've cut taxes on doing business in the United States. We've made ourselves more competitive. The biggest winners in tax reform are the person who didn't have a job during the Obama years and gets one now. And there's a third group, too. If you have a 401k or an IRA, if you have any stocks, we're going to see dramatic increase in the stock market because we increased, just by cutting taxes, the after-tax cash flow of every company in the country by about 23%.
Okay.
That's going to drive the stock market up, and your life savings will increase.
So let's just really quickly, Grover, go over some of the criticism of the plan. So critics are saying that it's, really not going to lead to that much job growth. What would you say quickly to that?
Well, it's nonsense. That's what they said when we cut marginal tax rates under Reagan. It's what they said in the middle of the 2000s when Bush cut cap gains taxes and so on, and we saw strong growth during those periods. History shows that lower marginal rates brings more investment and more jobs.
Okay, they're also saying it's not going to help the middle class.
One of the games they play is this tax cut, like the ones that Bush put forward, because of Senate rules, much of the individual tax cuts disappear in 10 years. Everyone knows that the Senate and the House and the President will re-up those. The Republicans intend to make them permanent as soon as they can. What the Democrats are saying is we won't make those tax cuts on middle-income Americans permanent. That's nonsense.
So the answer is, if you want these tax cuts to be permanent, vote Republican over the next 10 years.
It's the big difference between the two parties. Not a single Democrat will vote for this tax cut on all Americans.
Grover Norquist, appreciate you coming in.
All right.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
More on that huge Fox News exclusive. A Trump transition lawyer says Robert Mueller got thousands of emails inappropriately. Could there be a criminal case here? DOJ Public Affairs Director Sarah Flores weighs in next.
Plus, it was the trial of the century. But decades later, people still wonder how O.J. Simpson got cleared of murder. Well, his former lawyer is about to drop a bombshell. You better stay tuned.
Now we've got your news by the numbers. First, $26 billion. That's how much it will cost taxpayers to keep dreamers in the U.S. over the next decade. According to CBO, many benefiting from DACA will be eligible for Medicaid, food stamps, and other programs that you pay for. Next, 54%. That's First Lady Melania Trump's approval rating among Americans. According to a new poll by Gallup, her favorability going up by 17 points since President Trump took office. Turns out Americans like her Christmas decorations. And $28,000, that's the low-end price estimate for the newly unveiled 2019 Chevy Silverado when it hits the market late next year. But with all the bells and whistles, that price could be closer to $60,000. That's a truck for you. Yep.
This morning, a new potential bombshell in the special counsel's Russia probe. Fox News exclusively learning that a lawyer for the president's transition team now accusing Mueller's team of improperly obtaining documents.
Here to react to that and a whole lot more is a top aide, Sarah Flores, Director of Public Affairs for the Department of Justice, serves Attorney General Jeff Sessions very well. Good to see you this morning, Sarah.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Let's start with the news breaking overnight. What can you make of this? A lot of people in our audience, a lot of people around the country wondering what is happening with the Mueller probe. You have Democrats saying they're hearing rumors, and they just call it that, rumors, that Robert Mueller is going to be fired. But more specifically, what do you make of the fact that you serve in the Trump administration, the Trump transition team is upset that the special counsel obtained all of these emails? What do you say to it?
Well, I'll let the special counsel's team answer for that, but the Attorney General has said that he's assigned senior federal prosecutor to look over several matters that Congress has asked us to look at. That includes determining if any investigations need more resources, if any need to be opened, and whether any need the assignment of another special prosecutor.
And what do you make as well? We've heard criticism in recent days. In fact, Jason Chaffetz, the former Republican congressman, now a Fox News contributor, yesterday said he wants to see Jeff Sessions step aside. He's frustrated that, among other things, when we look at these text messages from Peter Strzok, he didn't get fired. He got reassigned to another job at the FBI. Audience hear that and they say, how in the world did that person not get fired? Is the Attorney General on top of this? What is he doing about that text message situation?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we've tried to be incredibly transparent with Congress. We've made witnesses available, like a confidential informant who can speak about Uranium One. We've made Strzok, Bruce Orr, Andrew McCabe available to Congress as well. And as you know, we turned over those text messages to Congress. So
could the Attorney General unrecuse himself as it pertains to what may have happened inside the FBI and DOJ, as it pertains to political connections to target the Trump administration, Trump transition, the Trump presidency?
Well, the Attorney General, of course, oversees personnel issues at the FBI. It's why James Comey was removed. He absolutely is in charge of ensuring fair, unbiased investigations throughout the Department of Justice. It's something that he cares about deeply.
Do you think there will be a second special counsel for the Russia investigation?
Very important at the Department of Justice that we not confirm or deny investigations and that we don't talk about them while they're in process. So I'll continue that tradition. But the American people should absolutely feel confident that this is being handled at the most appropriate level.
Sarah, moving on to some other big issues the Attorney General is trying to tackle. We appreciate you addressing those important issues as well. But we saw the Attorney General on Friday with the President of the United States at the FBI Academy, both talking about fighting crime across this country, particularly places like Chicago, where it's just gotten completely out of control in some parts of the city. I understand that the Attorney General is making some big announcements coming up.
Absolutely. You know, when the president took office, he said he was going to make America safe again. It's one of the reasons why he got elected. And on the day that Attorney General Sessions was confirmed, he sent us executive orders to reduce crime. That is exactly what the Attorney General is doing. So he is starting a 3-state tour today, announcing 40 new federal prosecutors dedicated to violent crime. Over the last 2 years, 2015 and 2016, we saw murders go up 20% in this country. That is unacceptable. And so we are assigning federal prosecutors to deal with this specifically, to target the most violent offenders, and to work with our state and local law enforcement to support them in their work and increase morale throughout the country, because they should know that we have their backs.
So, Sarah, just briefly, how does an executive order reduce crime?
Well, it told us to target the most violent offenders and figure out how to bring down this crime wave that we've been seeing that has just increased over the last administration. So the Attorney General sent a new charging policy, which will ensure that violent offenders are treated appropriately under the law.
Sarah, last question, DACA and what we do with the children of illegal immigrants who are here in this country. Something the president has suggested he wants to find a compromise on. It's gotten wrapped up, as you know, in these end-of-the-year budget negotiations. Do you think the president, the attorney general, top people in the Trump administration are willing to hold firm on making sure there are tough crackdowns on illegal immigration as part of a DACA deal, as part of a negotiation to prevent a government shutdown? Are they going to stand firm on that?
It's such an important part of the president's message, and it's so incredible to me that Democrats would consider shutting down the government over common sense immigration solutions. They can fix DACA, but we've also got to secure the border. We've got to end chain migration and the diversity lottery. This isn't just an economic issue. It's a national security issue, as we've seen over the last 2 months with terrorist attacks in New York.
Sarah, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're speaking too much common sense. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate
Can't
it.
go any further.
Have a great morning.
Have a
Appreciate
great morning.
it. All right. First, it was Jimmy Kimmel going after the FCC chairman over net neutrality.
I just want to say thank you, President Trump. Thanks to you and this jackhole you appointed to run the FCC.
Why do we play that clip? Now it's Luke Skywalker.
Wait, he's getting involved?
And patriotism is something that should unify our country, but a troubling new poll shows that we are deeply divided. Shouldn't we all be proud to be Americans? Our panel is here to discuss next.
It's time to remember that old wisdom our soldiers will never forget, that whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots.
That was President Trump. Patriotism is something that should unify our country, but a troubling new poll shows that we are deeply divided. According to a new poll, 65% of conservatives are proud to be Americans, but just 37% of liberals call themselves proud to be an American. But shouldn't we all, I feel like 65% is even low, be proud to be an American? Let's ask our panel. Political science professor Dr. Janine Zaino, former NYPD lieutenant and Army veteran Dr. Darren Porcher, and personal finance expert Emma Johnson. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
We will put you in a box and say we've got more or less a liberal, a conservative, and a moderate here on the panel. Reject that title if you'd like. But we put titles on people when we ask them in polls, right? So what do you make of the fact that only a small 37% of liberals would say that they're proud to be American?
Well, I think the poll asked if they consider themselves patriots. And I think that you can pick that apart. This really becomes a debate about semantics. Because when we talk about patriotism, look, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, but I see this country surging with patriotism from the left. We have so much movement when it started with the Women's March, when we started with the resistance, the Me Too, Black Lives Matter. These are all exercises that are big and bold that we've ever had in recent history of the left coming together and exercising democracy and being proud Americans. This is patriotism at its most, the kneeling athletes. And what it is, I think what I see as somebody who considers myself progressive by definition means you're stepping away from the old guard, right? You're stepping away. But there's a big difference between rejecting the administration and loving your country and fighting within democracy for your country.
So, Darren, to that point, she's saying the kneeling NFL is patriotism.
I staunchly disagree. I'm a former Army officer like yourself, Pete. I bleed red, white, and blue. I'm prepared to lay down my life for this country. I believe it's important that we stand behind our commander-in-chief. Rooting against the president is equivalent to getting on an airplane and hoping that the plane crashes. We as Americans need to come together and acquiesce behind the political structure in play so we can progressively do better. When we look at the rises in the stock market, when we look at the precipitous drops in unemployment, it stands true that we're moving in the right direction. So when we take in consideration patriotism, when I look at people kneeling in front of the American flag, that sends a spike through my heart. And I think that it's important that we as Americans need to come together, coalesce behind this United States of America because it's the greatest nation on earth.
Strong statement. Gene, your take on the idea of what patriotism really represents.
Yeah, I'll resolve the conflict between these two. As the moderate here, Pete, no, I think we have to step back. We have years and years of data. I'm a pollster, 40 years of data on patriotism. America is a patriotic place, but it's not the most patriotic country in the world. That actually goes to Qatar, of all places. But this poll is right. Yeah, shocking, right?
Yeah.
But this poll is right. Since 2003, we've seen a decline in patriotism, particularly among young people, millennials, like Darren and I both teach, but also amongst liberals and progressives. And that is due in part to the fact that the country is now being led by somebody that they are not satisfied with. So that does creep up into the polls. So we have to take into account when you're not satisfied with the country, you tend to say, yes, I love my country, but am I proud to be an American at this moment? Not necessarily.
I would push back and say that patriotism numbers were still high amongst conservatives under Barack Obama. So it's not exclusive to administrations. When you look at this poll, liberals were less likely to attach meaning to the American flag, 30% less, 33% lower to the Pledge of Allegiance, 36 points lower to the national anthem, and 38 points lower to the Bible. So look at the flag and the allegiance and the anthem. Why would liberals look at those symbols, which, as Darren talked about, those of us who raised our right hand to defend the Constitution believe in and defend, why would those be less patriotic or something not to revere?
No, and I understand that very much. We do attach it to our administration, and we also attach it...
Why should we?
Well,
you made the point that we don't because the Women's March and all these things.
Well, we do. I'm saying that we do, but I'm saying in terms of our allegiance to our country. I think when these polls come out, as they do periodically, the conservative right jumps on it and says that liberals hate America. Liberals are not patriotic. We don't believe in our country, and I'm arguing that we do. We do reject the administration, and I think a lot of it, when it comes to those symbolic things like the flag, we see that as the global-facing symbol of our country. Our foreign policy, which we're ashamed of.
You're
We're
ashamed of America's foreign policy.
Certainly, most recently, every day when these headlines come out about our president, I am just can only
North Korea is
see.
about to get nuclear
I
weapons.
disagree.
Yeah, please.
I think our foreign policy is come leaps and bounds from where it was under the Obama administration. We look at what's happening in North Korea. We look at how Trump is reorganizing these trade agreements with countries like China and NAFTA with Mexico. So I think that he's doing a tremendous job in terms of our foreign policy. Just taking consideration him getting, I forget what the gentleman's name was, out of North Korea. These were things that weren't happening. These are things that were not happening under the Obama administration. I think that President Trump has been focused on a level of strength, and we've been getting kicked around for years and years. And it's about time that someone has stepped up and represented this country, and as opposed to isolating us, putting us at the forefront in diplomacy.
Gene, we're out of time. Last word.
I would just say Americans are patriotic, but you're right. Conservatives, Republicans have for a long time been slightly more patriotic or willing to say that they're proud to be an American than liberals and Democrats. But that doesn't mean we're not a patriotic country. 3/4 of Americans say they're proud to be American, but they want changes in the country. Conservatives and liberals alike.
Well, sure. If we all kneeled for the anthem because we thought our country wasn't perfect, we'd all kneel. Because
yeah, but
our country is not perfect.
But action
the reality
speaks
is
so much louder than these gestures. I do think that kneeling is important.
During the anthem?
I
think the majority of Americans would like you to stand for the anthem, kneel for something else.
But I think the majority of Americans would like us to be. I think the majority of Americans would like to see us. Please let me speak. Please do not let me interrupt me. I think the majority of Americans would like to see us working within the democratic system for things that we believe in, and we are seeing the left rise up and exercise this in unprecedented numbers in the last year alone. And I cannot imagine a more democratic exercise than that.
I think we've seen the right rise up and
backdrop of the American flag is not the place to protest. I fought for this flag as an Army officer. I've bled for this country, and I take it personal. And I take it personal when people kneel in front of the American flag. If you want to protest, do it with your legislators, not in front of the flag nor the anthem.
Well, you've got it coming at both sides. You've got it coming at both sides.
We've got to leave it right there.
To the legislator and the flag.
Well, we all love our flag. We got to leave it right there. Coming up, there's a battle over conservative values between people like Mitch McConnell and Steve Bannon. But our next guest says President Trump can do one thing to win the war of ideas right now. Plus, the Pentagon secretly spending millions of your tax dollars to search for UFOs. And guess who is behind it all? That man. You thought he was gone. No, he's still spending your dollars. His name's Harry Reid, and he's looking for UFOs.